Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission, until we are cancelled and replaced by something far superior, to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence, to seek out new guests and make them very uncomfortable, to boldly go where many other YouTube Star Trek type shows have gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to a recorded episode of Trekking Up North. I am your host, Captain Goodwill, and joining me, you're not...
Silence, fool! Silence in the presence of Dr. Chaotica, ruler of the cosmos! I have taken over the U.S.S. Adequate using my death ray. I shall complete my ultimate mission to take over the Earth and destroy my greatest nemesis, Nova the dog. What do you have to say about that, foolish mortal?
I've got a phaser. Welcome everybody to Dr. Chaotica! Question is, for you, Dr. Chaotica.
Yes?
Could you take Keiko O'Brien?
No, I would take her and her evil as my bride. I would be subservient to such a great evil. Why do you laugh? Why do you mock the presence of Chaotica?
Because you look like Jonathan Frakes at certain angles.
Are you saying I look like Will Riker in drag?
Commander Riker! Oh my god, look at them, look at this effort here. This is...
I just feel liberated that I didn't have to shave my eyebrows today. I just let them grow natural.
For those listening to the audio podcast,
poor bastards listening.
For those listening to the audio podcast, you are missing out. Join us on YouTube. Oh my god! just the images below.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my god! Welcome everybody to Trekking. Welcome everybody to Trekking Up North. Better late than never. We apologise that there was no episode last week. It was a complete and utter disaster last week for both of us, and that's why Dr. Chaotica has taken over. For Science Officer Synoiz has just walked into the sea. And
the Science Officer Synoiz can't be fucked with life right now. Because it's all bullshit.
Neither can Captain Goodwill. Buy some ships off me, please. But yes, we are here to review a lot of people's favourite episode of Star Trek Voyager, Season 7.
Really?
Yeah, Season 7, Episode 11. A name adequately suited to both me and Synoiz at the moment, Shattered. And
also my house.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you were, but I don't know.
It's really difficult. Like I will actually say, just to dispel the fun for a moment. Sorry. It's really odd. Like last Monday, I put out a video because I'd been asked to by the If You Care Share Foundation, and I put out a video about mental health and the importance of talking about it and whatnot, and being like, hey, I'm in a good place, but I can remember when I wasn't, and it's just basically talking about how important it is to actually be able to articulate and not feel ashamed of talking through your problems with stuff. And then after that, everything fucked up. Okay, like everything went wrong. And you know how they say, oh, things come in threes. It's more like sevens. And I'm still reeling from all of the absolute awful bad news I've had over the past week. So yeah, so fuck everything. I'm getting through, but yeah, my house. I woke up at 3 a.m. on Wednesday last week with my house flooding to a buzzing noise, and one of the pipes had burst and was spraying everywhere upstairs, and it totally flooded down to the kitchen. The electrics weren't working and anything, so I had no like electricity. My phone was hadn't charged, so I was on like 20% battery, and that was my only torch. Yeah, and the absolute nightmare of trying to sort that out where you don't know where the stopcock is because we never managed to find it. And it turns out that the stopcock is behind a fitting
Yeah.
in the house. So, like at 3 a.m. in my underwear, covered like soaking wet with no heating and a phone torch for light, had to sort of pull a bit of my kitchen apart or whatever to get to the stopcock to turn the water off. Then found out that all the emergency plumbers weren't available till 6 hours later. But they still charged me £530 to repair the plumbing. And then when I phoned the insurance people, they were like, "Oh, your home emergency cover that you specifically pay for this doesn't cover it because it we only cover plastic pipes, and also you phoned a plumber yourself rather than contacting us and starting a claim at 3 a.m. in the morning." Yeah, so like that's a conversation you don't want to have. So 530 quid. Obviously, I'm going to take it to trading standards and whatnot and just be like, hey, that's cool. I can't find that in any of my documentation. And also, it's unrealistic to have that expectation of a customer. But anyway, yeah. And so currently, I'm trying to work out whether to claim on the actual main home insurance and stuff. So yeah, and that's one issue. That is one issue that's happened. But I won't
We
go into
will
them all. But
we will say about this issue though.
hmm,
One, never ever ever be loyal to an insurance company.
yeah,
Two, trading standards is your friend. And three, make a complaint.
yeah.
When something like this happens, make a fuss because he who shouts loudest gets heard the most. So we
It just when
absolutely,
you're downbeat, you're like, I can't be fucked doing this right now. And that's exactly
yeah,
how they get you. They go, hey, we're gonna make it as difficult as possible. So when you're in a bad place, you can't actually do the steps you need to do. But yeah, so I will recover, I will get on with things, but it's just yeah, and then everything else hit me and I was like, I can't deal with this right now. So yeah, so I have been very much neglecting my nerdy up north duties. We were going to do the show last week. We were fully prepared for it and stuff, but then it we
we,
literally
we were
we
like,
literally
no.
yeah, like I
Yeah,
was like, hey, I can do it, but I just don't feel very funny right now. Like I was
yeah.
literally just like I was literally just staying at Andy's for the week because obviously my house was flooded. And then I was just like, do I want to A, risk that internet connection again? And B, do I want to like just have an episode of the podcast doing a very good episode, but where you have no humor left in you? But luckily, I'm ups and downs at the minute, but I'm yeah, able to like, have fun at least
I
now.
think we, I think we both reached a consensus quite literally at the midnight hour on Friday, where
Mm,
I mean, my week paled in comparison to yours. No one can argue that, but I,
we-
I had a
the
difficult week, but it was a case of we'd got to Friday, and we were like, yeah, we could do the episode, but we will absolutely not be at our best. And I very much of the opinion that if we are not our best, it won't be a fun episode for anyone else. So we made the very difficult decision, but needed decision to delay it until this week, until we recharged a little
yeah.
bit. It's been quite a difficult week, and I think to be honest, I think it's been a difficult week for a number of people.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I've had my like faith to quote the episode shattered in the last couple of weeks of because that's the thing. It's like I kind of have this understanding of like if you're a good person, good things happen to you. But it does kind of very much feel like wow, okay, so karma's not a thing.
Yeah,
Like when you
when
just
does
sit
the
there and be
good
like,
start?
yeah,
Yeah,
you're literally just like, whoa, okay, I've been shafted by everything, and not in the way
yeah.
I like. and not
Yeah.
enough actually. But the problem is that it's more the idea of like what you were saying earlier about your problems paling in comparison to mine. It's not true. It's the fact of what we need to realize is that everyone's struggles are very real and very valid in the context of their life. Like it's
Yeah.
the sort of thing I feel bad moaning about this and that and not getting that and this failing and losing money and stuff like that. But it's the fact of like I've got a mate who's literally like he's just been made redundant kind of thing. He doesn't know how he's going to get another job in the same industry and stuff.
Yeah.
His boyfriend's left him. And it's just that thing of going, wow, okay, I genuinely, my struggles, they mean a lot to me, and that makes them valid.
Yeah.
It's that idea. It's like you kind of go like, oh, rich people have no problems because they've got loads of money, and you're like, well, why are they all drug addicted fuckheads then? Like, oh well, it's because everything is contextual.
It's
So yeah, no,
yeah.
your troubles are totally valid, and I know what they are, and it's just life fucking sucks, and
It very much sucks, but the only way is up, baby. You and me now. But
oh yes,
you have to think that it, you just have to remain positive, and you have to think this will get better. It may get worse, but eventually it will sort itself out. And I have been very quietly working away in the background to sort mine, and I'm getting there. Please subscribe to Search for Trek on Patreon.
do it.
And but no, it's
both of us have ducked down in a lot of
yeah.
stuff. Like in terms of Nerdy Up North, we basically just we've said like, hey, we're gonna take a step back and let all the stuff because there's so much cool stuff happening at Nerdy Up North. Like after when this actually broadcasts on Friday, it will be after Jake and Paul have had their amazing time in London doing the auction
Fantastic
for Game of
opportunity.
Thrones.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm so proud of them for getting that and whatnot. And it's this idea, but we've literally just had to be like, can't be involved with that right now, but good luck with it.
It couldn't have come at the worst time, and it's sort of like we've got so many fantastic things coming up at Nerdy Up North, and like Graham said, I'm
Jessica's doing it all.
Extremely proud of Paul and Jake for going down to that London, brave as they are to go to London for the Heritage Auction for Game of Thrones. Jessica is doing the Nerdy Up North night on November 14th.
This is it. Nerdy. Then is it November? Is it October?
November the 14th?
Oh.
Thursday, November the 14th.
I don't even know what that day is. I thought
It's a
it
Thursday.
was October.
It's a Thursday.
Oh, would you believe? Right, okay, there we go. Well, that's good. That's next month then. No, next November.
Month after.
Yeah, wait, that's it. So Nerdy Up North live. So the fact is, if you are in Newcastle or the surrounding areas, or say the North, you can come along and see all of us. And I have no idea what we're doing yet because we haven't properly discussed it with Jessica. Because all of us have been like, yeah, we will have a call with you. when everything stops being on fire,
we will definitely have a call. Albert.
It's basically going to be us talking about the shows live and giving everyone the opportunity to ask us questions and whatnot about them, and just generally probably talking about behind the scenes stuff. Or so it's an AMA. It'll be fun, but it's going to have almost all of us there. What we're doing is we're doing the initial podcast first. So I think in the first one we have Trekking Up North, we have Monsters Up North, we have the main podcast, and we have Gaming Up North. But Gaming Up North is Jake and Adam.
Yeah.
And then for the next event we're going to do it where we rotate it, and we have wonderful Daddy Lee in there, and where we add like Kirsty and Adam for Gigs Up North, and all of, and then top Chris and Lee in for Top Grumps.
Yes. So
which is a new show.
Head over to the Nerdy Up North Facebook page and the Nerdy Up North community if you're not already a member, and have a look at that. That is November the 14th at the Globe in Newcastle. The Globe opposite the Utility Arena, or the Metro Radio Arena if you're of a certain generation. It'll always be the Metro for me. But yeah, so we've got that, and we've got the Nerdy Up North quiz coming week on Saturday.
It is
Saturday
Saturday the 28th. It is a generic quiz again, so
Yeah.
it is. So we'll. Have we?
I've got
we're
all the
announcing it
prizes right
today.
here.
I know, that's it. I love that you're like, oh, I don't think I'll come, and I'll just be like going, you need to come. You have
I've
the
got
prizes.
all the stuff here.
All of the raffle prizes. But yes, this time we are actually raising for FACT, which is Fighting All Cancers Together, which is a Northeast charity. It has an office in Sunderland, and I think it's quite good. So now that my competition is over, we're rotating the charities every month. So I think...
Look at the delicious prizes that you can win.
To be fair, people have been amazing. People have been so incredibly generous for these quizzes.
Why is a Harry Potter fudge?
What? Harry Potter fudge?
I'm just raiding Donna's big box. Hang on a minute.
As said by many men over the years.
Chewy butterbeer. One of the many prizes.
It's definitely not worth a £2 raffle ticket, I'll tell you that, but still.
Oh my god.
Maybe a Boubet prize.
What is this? Synoiz Frontiers.
Oh no!
Oh, look at this! A light little plug here. Science Officer Synoiz has done
we
music.
like a little plug or a big plug, but yeah.
Oh, look at this! Introducing Synoiz Frontiers, the brave new album from Synoiz, featuring such tracks as In Debris, Brave New Worlds, Captain's Fratty, Friendly Fear, New Organic Life, Alien Architecture, The Cataclysm, U.S.S. Stable, Becoming More, and Bivalence, and my personal favourite, Science. Science!
But yeah. So if you come down to the Nerdy Up North quiz at 5 p.m. Geek Retreat Sunderland on Saturday the 28th of this month, September, you could potentially win a collection of Synoiz albums.
It's after payday, everybody, so we all have to go.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a generic quiz, so me and Jessica are still working out the questions, but it's going to be like, a nerdy TV round, a nerdy video games round, a nerdy movie round, a picture round, and I don't know, maybe we'll play bingo again.
If you are going to come, you must try Geek Retreat shakes, because, oh my god, the Jaffa the Hutt is one of the tastiest milkshakes I have ever had. And as a treat at the end, you have an actual Jaffa cake at the bottom. Beautiful.
Those shakes are better than what you would get from a CM nanny. That's what I'm saying.
So we are...
So Shattered then.
Shattered. Much like Madeleine McCann's spine from the looks of it. The...
I love that the poor bastards listening on the audio are just like, I'm getting nothing out of this one. We are getting nothing out.
I've put filters on and everything. So Star Trek Voyager's episode Shattered. The synopsis for this is... This is a very bad synopsis, that's all I'm going to say.
Stuff happens, yeah. Well, I think essentially... What the synopsis for this episode is that basically the ship gets split into different temporal bubbles so Chakotay basically exists in all times at once, going around the ship basically with each area of the ship in a different time period of Voyager's past.
Fractured.
So effectively, like, now, my only complaint of this episode, because I do actually really like this episode, is the fact it wasn't later in season 7. Because this episode is the perfect summary and the perfect sort of like look back upon where Voyager's come from and gone to. And it does sort of come in at like episode 7 or something.
It's the midpoint. It's episode 11. It is a clip show without pre-used clips. It's essentially...
I think that's a prerequisite of a clip show.
Yeah, but it's a clip show with new clips that you've never seen. And essentially it goes through the entire 7 years of Star Trek Voyager, but in different angles, shall we say. So we go all the way back to where Voyager is chasing the Marquis and they're not even at the Badlands yet. And then it goes 15, 17 years into the future. We get Naomi Wildman. We get Icheb, Space Twin. And we get...
I was watching it where it has the bit where you see Naomi Wildman in the future, and I just immediately quoted the Morticia thing of going, "Oh, she lives."
Yeah, it is a good clip show episode, but they do it really well. And as you can probably tell, me and Science Officer Synoiz are particularly fond of 4 minutes of this episode only, because it is possibly some of the best 4 minutes of season 7 that we get.
It's everything in this episode is like put up to 100% or 200%, because basically what they're doing is they're going, "Hey, remember this thing from previously in Voyager?" And so the characters are like 200% what they are, and so it's like, so basically when we do get the Captain Proton bit with Dr. Chaotica, everyone is overacting the hell. All of the minions are there. All of the crazy stuff is going on. Everyone knows that it's probably the last time they're going to appear in the show. So like like the Doctor is like, "This is the last time I get to act like the season 3 Doctor." Okay, it's that idea of everyone is just giving it their all. So it's kind of the best. It's like nostalgia, but current.
So I mean, I know we're gonna get it, but Satan's robot, which is the robot in Captain Proton that just looks like a massive can of
fucking bin.
It's a massive can of Stella with arms. I was looking at this. I was looking at this, and the robot looks very familiar. Now, obviously, Captain Proton is based on Buck Rogers and all the 30s serializations. As a cinephile of sorts, and
that means you really like movies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it illegal? Is there an island for it?
Yes, I'm on a register.
I'm a registered cinephile. Yes, I love sin.
I need to check something because I'm pretty sure it's. No one's going to get this but me. This is how sad I am. So Satan's robot, right, is a direct rip-off of robots from the Undersea Kingdom, which was a bunch of 30s serialized like mini movies. So what you would normally have in like the 30s, 20s, 30s and 40s and 50s, you would have a main feature, but before the main feature you would have like a little mini feature, like a little presentation. So you would have like news of the day. Look at this. People on planes. Women in shoes. Those crazy broads. So you had stuff like that. So it's like news of the world, as they call it. And then you
bad
had,
reference.
But well, at least it didn't.
Hopefully, it goes bankrupt as well.
It didn't hack any phone, so it's fine. But so you had stuff like that, and then you had soaps. So you had stuff like General Hospital or something like that would happen. The original General Hospital, sorry. Well, no, just before General Hospital, like soaps, shall we say? But then you had
generalized hospital.
But then you had serialized movies, and one of them was The Undersea Kingdom. Which was like it was released in cinemas in certain chapters, so you would have like I'm pretty sure it was like 10-15 minute runs, and then it was like chapter 1 and then stay tuned for chapter 2 next week on the other. And the robot from the Undersea Kingdom, I urge everyone who's listening and who's watching to find an image from the Undersea Kingdom with the robots in, and then look at Satan's robot in this episode, because it's a direct rip-off, and you can see where the production designers have got their inspiration from. And I love the.
I think it's wonderful though.
There's no like hiding the fact that the directors, the writers, the designers, everyone who worked behind the scenes on Star Trek, like designing the show and everything like that, were huge fans of 30s, 40s, and 50s sci-fi, huge fans of Buck Rogers and stuff like that, and they just take that inspiration and they just amalgamate it lovingly into Star Trek. And this is just such a niche tribute to like a film that was that was seen back then,
Yeah.
like 50, 60
I,
years ago, which is like
do
70,
you
90 years ago now. This.
Do you think though? I kind of wonder if maybe it's a bad thing, like because a lot of the things that I find a bit weird in Trek are where you can tell that it's like the writers' interests being like
Yeah,
foisted into it. Like for instance, like why does baseball keep appearing?
yeah.
Why is there all this random Americana where it's all stuff to do with sort of like cars and stuff and all of these, and and like with this, where it's like sci-fi and whatnot, you're just kind of going like. I get it, but it's just weird that we're like somehow we found a way to get to baseball 200 years into the future.
Do
It's
you
like
do you reckon though it's like mostly because stuff like that is well not royalty free, but like it falls into the public domain for some of it, and then
possibly,
it's
yeah.
it's relatively cheap to obtain the license for certain things. And I mean the reason why, when you look at any movies that they do show in Star Trek, it's all like the
Mm,
old 40s and 50s B movies, because it's relatively cheap to obtain them, or they can just like ransack the Paramount
yeah.
archive, which I have been in,
I
and is
yeah.
volatile as fuck if it does ignite.
Oh
So
God.
you can literally step in, and
Yeah.
that's as far as you can go, because the slightest bit of static electricity could destroy an entire archive. Because it's all silver nitrate. Um, so I think, because even up to Star Trek Enterprise, when they were having
Mm,
like movie night and stuff like that, like, oh, we're
yeah.
watching Bride of Frankenstein. It's like
See what
the
I mean though?
40s and 50s ones.
I have a feeling that by using our knowledge of Star Trek, we could literally create the main writer's dating profile. We could make his Match.com profile and be like, what kind of music does he like? I think it's jazz. What kind of sports does he like? Oh, well, it's baseball
Baseball.
and it's baseball and fucking tennis and fucking what's the other one that they have all the time?
Baseball, tennis,
Uh,
water polo.
water polo, yeah, and then you just kind of like, oh, okay, what it's yeah, and we can
Yeah.
tell what kind of women he likes because yeah, the bodysuits. But
What do you think of this episode being a Chakotay centric episode as well?
I think honestly, I'm gonna say that it's the best choice you could possibly have for the episode, and I'll tell you why. One thing I'll just say, okay, the reason why we're making a big fuss about Dr. Chaotica in this is because A, we haven't covered him yet on the podcast,
Yeah.
and B, we are so sick of Voyager coming up on the Dabo Wheel that we're taking it out. So it lessens the chance of us getting a Chaotica episode
I want a
quite a
different
lot.
uniform.
Yeah, so we're basically going like, okay, because we're getting rid of Voyager for a little while, kind of thing. We might as well celebrate that we have Doctor Chaotica and that whole section in this. But I will say, okay, it's like a lot of the time when you have a character who is meant to be kind of an everyman in a
Yeah.
weird way, or in the purpose of the episode needs to be an everyman, they can't be that much about them. So we see
Mm.
this in characters like Frodo from The Lord of the Rings, where he is the least interesting character, where only his only characteristic is that things happen to him. It's not so much like what his dreams, what his desires, what his anything is. It's basically because he's there to be the protagonist that everyone else is influencing and everyone else is kind of getting reflected through, which is kind of a mark of a good protagonist, I guess. Um, but in this one, we get Chakotay because everyone else has to do stuff.
Mm.
Everyone else has to like have a part in the episode and has to have some characterization. Chakotay just needs to be the person stumbling through this whole event.
Yeah.
And therefore, and I think it's good because most Chakotay episodes are like, oh God, do I want to sit through this? But then in this one, you're like, oh, it's great because
It
everything is happening to him, and he works really well in this episode.
it does have what we like to call Star Trek science at the beginning of this episode, where Chakotay is affected by chronoton radiation, which is like temporal radiation, and his face, like right there, his face
Yeah.
gets all gooey, gooey, gooey. And then the
There's
doctor,
basically there's a massive flare. Okay, so they're
yeah,
traveling through space through the Delta Quadrant. There's a massive flare up that no one can predict, and then Chakotay gets burned by it, and then
Yeah.
they take him to, then they do an emergency transport for him to sick bay, and then they have then they have the title sequence, and then when he wakes up in sick bay, the doctor's like, "Oh wow, okay, it turned out you were totally fucked." It's like, turned out you were totally fucked, and I had to use what's it called? Uh, yeah, a chronoton serum, which is made up chronoton
Yeah.
serum, because his body was in temporal flux. So his organs were of an old man. Well, some of his organs were of an old man. Some of his organs were of a child. And so basically, they put him back into a flux. But what it means is it means that Chakotay can actually go through all of these temporal shifts or whatever and actually experience them rather than being limited to the one that he's in
It's an
currently, like everyone else.
it is an incredible plot device
Hmm.
that is never mentioned again. And
It's
it's what
Voyager science. I know I complain
Voyager
about it a lot, but
science.
this is the epitome of Voyager
It
science in this
really is,
one.
because this is just like you are in temporal flux. Here is a serum to bring you into temporal sync. And you're
Yeah,
like,
and they're
temporal
like,
sync with
Doug,
what?
yeah, and then the doctor, can you make a casing for like can you just manufacture the casing for a thing that will exist in all time at once? And he's like,
It's
yeah, sure thing.
But it's
And
insane
it's
because
just
it's
like,
like
okay.
because if you think about it, take a step back and really think about what the Doctor has done here. He has
Mm,
created a serum that brings Chakotay's body back into temporal sync with present day, right?
mm.
Now, think about this. He has developed a serum to adjust the age of a body. He has created this hologram has created the fountain of youth.
And we shall never speak of it again.
Never speak of it ever again.
I
And
I
you know,
do
as
like though that it's like, because what we get is basically Chakotay doesn't realize what's happened at this point. Okay,
yeah,
he just wakes up and it's like it's the doctor. He looks as he always does, kind of thing. But then the doctor goes off on a big rant, basically just going like, "Oh, if we were back at Earth or whatever, I would get a prestigious award for this achievement. Here, it's just another day in the life of an underappreciated EMH." And you're just like, wow, he's a bit bitchy. And then you realize, and then obviously, and then Chakotay's like, oh, well, thanks very much for this. Come on, come with me. We're going to go to the bridge and sort the rest of the crew out with this serum. And then the doctor's like, but I can't leave sick bay. And he's like, no, no, get your mobile emitter on. He's like, what's the mobile emitter? And Chakotay kind of
yeah.
goes, oh, okay. And then we realize
Oh,
the reason why the Doctor's being a bitch is because it's season three Doctor. It's the Doctor who is very much doing all of these incredible things, like an even better Doctor than Pulaski, uh,
with
doing
a
all of
better
these
bedside manner.
possibly, yeah.
It's data.
But it's the idea, still better than fucking Beverly. But
Oh, time to light the candle.
I just don't like the stop.
All hail!
Never like that candle.
All hail the candle slag! Look, look, I have a new device. Look, fire.
Don't like that candle.
Right, right, Paramount. You sell phasers, phaser
Yeah.
lighters. DM me, bro.
Razor lighters and obviously haunted candles. It's going to be a good deal. But yeah, you like the haunted candle.
Didn't like that candle.
Does it smell of Scottish Nan?
It smells of marshmallows
Mm. But
and
yeah,
regret.
but yeah. So basically, like
Clapperboard
Chakotay
candles,
realizes,
everybody. Clapperboard candles.
but Chakotay realizes that obviously the Doctor is a different version of the Doctor, and I love that it's season three Doctor, and we get to see a bit of him again. What we didn't talk about actually is before the accident happens, right at the beginning of the episode, we get to
Yeah.
see Icheb and Naomi Wildman basically playing, and it's a little teaser for later on in the episode, but we basically get to see Icheb teaching Naomi sort of science through
Yeah.
puzzles and whatnot, and Jaco, and this pisses me off, okay, because Neelix, I don't think he speaks in this episode. No, he does speak. He has like one line or whatever. But the episode, as usual with Voyager, doesn't have a fucking clue what to do with Neelix. But just doesn't paint him in a good light because basically Chakotay comes into the cargo bay where they're sort of learning, and then just opens up a random crate and he's got this special cider in it that he's like smuggled in. And he's like, "Oh, my secret. Please don't tell Neelix that this exists, because otherwise you'll steal it for stuff." And I'm just like, "What? What?" I love the idea of Neelix just literally just going around finding stuff and then just be like, "I guess I'll just nick this then." And you're like, transport him into space. You know, just make it look like an accident. It's just, but the episode very much like it references Neelix because it's like, well, we can't suggest that he's actually done anything. We can't show him doing anything because he doesn't have any skills. But yeah,
You really don't like Neelix.
he's just a massive waste of a character. Just...
He's got some good episodes. He does have some good episodes, and he does deal with some pretty tough subjects as well with those episodes.
Yeah. Luxana Troy has some good episodes.
Okay, so
That's my counter.
He leaves the Doctor and he's going to the bridge and he goes into the turbo lift and there's another temporal shift as we there's a nice like CGI effect and he gets to the bridge.
As he's moving through places, it demonstrates that he's moving into a new bubble which has a different time zone in it.
Yeah, and we see that he gets to the bridge and obviously it is when is it at the bridge? Is it?
It's the bridge is just before.
Just before they get to the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah, it's just before they get to the Badlands. They're currently chasing Chakotay's ship. And obviously Chakotay goes up to Harry Kim and just goes like, "Hey, Harry, like, oh, we need to do stuff." And Harry's like, "Who the hell are you?" And then Janeway basically just turns around and goes, "Arrest that man," because he is the person that they are currently chasing into the Badlands,
Yeah.
Because it is literally just before Voyager starts.
So then we see that obviously Chakotay has taken a trip 7 years back into the past before Chaotica has disappeared. Chaotica has appeared. So it's, before they've gone to the Delta Quadrant. It's great because what we see is another side of Chakotay where Chakotay doesn't lose his rag. He doesn't get frustrated. He's very calm all the way through this. And he's trying to deal with this very strange situation where he's been hurled back and forth in time. And he's very diplomatic with Janeway. Like, he knows Janeway and he knows how to appeal to the more rational side of Janeway, because Janeway would have just murdered him within a heartbeat because coffee. And we see that he tries to explain that he's traveled into the past. He's been thrown back into the past, and he's like, "Harry scanned for chronoton radiation," and they're like, "Oh well, we do see this and stuff," and immediately goes into the ready room with Janeway.
Well, here's the thing though. It's before then. It's the fact of the good thing is we get to see Janeway being like unreasonable. Like, she's usually reasonable. She can usually be sort of like
she's
diplomatic.
New captain though, isn't she?
But in this, she's very very new captain, and she's basically like, I have absolutely no reason to trust this guy. Everything seems very fishy about all of this. So it's quite good getting to see that character, and also getting to see her with the season 1 haircut, which is a nice little touch where basically everyone that we see is obviously back to whatever they were doing and wearing in that particular season. Where they were just like, should we get the actor? Oh, she's on a binge. Right, okay, never mind. Where's the line?
There is no line. There's a mugshot.
But yeah,
go on.
I absolutely love her, but yeah, the library is open. But and the fact is, she's basically like, "Oh, how are you going to convince me that you are from the future?" And he basically tells her facts about her dog that she has never told anyone, and she's just like, "My ready room now," and it's quite good. It's actually quite good though, because we get to see sort of. It's odd though, like we kind of go, is Chakotay being reasonable or unreasonable here? Because what he effectively does, okay, is he basically goes, "Okay, cool, here's a serum. If I give you it, then it'll allow you to traverse the ship with me." No, that's not what happens yet.
He gets taken to the brig with the 2 security guards, but as he's going in the turbo lift, the security guards disappear.
Yeah, so before he tries to convince her that he's really there, basically there's that's later. Sorry, you get confused. Basically she arrests him and then gets him taken to the brig. But then as the guards are taking him in the turbo lift, they pass through one of the bubbles and the guards disappear because can't exist at all times, whereas
Yeah.
Chakotay carries on. And then he goes to engineering, isn't it? And we get a nice little surprise in engineering.
Yes. Seska returns with the big spoon on her forehead.
Well, half
Um,
Cardassian Seska. She hasn't
half
fully
Cardassian.
gone back, has she?
No, she
That's
hasn't.
how specific the placement of this is, where her makeup
Right
is.
there, yeah, yeah. There we are.
Yeah, there it is. It's basically before she's fully gone back to being Cardassian, which is cool.
Yeah. So we see that he's gone to. This is season 3, early season 3, where Seska took over Voyager. And she's like, "How did you get back on board?" Because famously, she dumped the crew on a planet and
Hmm.
took Voyager. So Seska is in engineering, and again, he's very rationally. He's like, "I am not off. I am not from this time," and blah 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 blah. And Seska just beats the shit out. No, she. It's
It's
yeah.
good to get these villains back and then be like give them sort of a one like a little final hey it's Seska again even though she's dead
But he manages to escape. He runs up to the top deck of engineering and jumps through another anomaly. Dr. Chaotica has returned.
my
Um,
earbud fell out. He just popped out my ear.
your
Sorry.
earbud fell out.
Yeah.
It does not want to be associated with evil.
It's because I've
Um,
insulted Naomi Wild.
yeah.
Doesn't give a shit about Kes.
So yeah. Where was the next scene? Oh,
But
where he
no,
goes
it's great
to.
though because the whole point is that what he's yeah, goes to engineering and he basically sort of gets arrested and then he realizes that he can jump through the bubble. So he kind of realizes what's
Yeah,
happening. So he manages to escape from her and the
goes
guards
back to
because
sick
obviously
bay.
stuff and he jumps through like he basically finds that there's like just a wall that he can pass through but no one else can see him when he's through there and they can't travel through. So
Very
he manages
weird.
to get through but he's able to go back to sick bay see the doctor and be like, "Hey, that serum you made, can you make more of that?" And the doctor does, and that's when he goes back to the
That's
bridge
when
to
he
go.
confronts
I
Janeway. Yeah,
because he realizes that what is it? He confronts Janeway, and he just goes basically like, "Hey, look, I'm from the future. I can prove it because I know about your dog." And then basically, when they get to the ready room, a guard follows them in, and then he literally just kidnaps her. So he basically just goes, actually, the injection thing is poison. So I'm just, literally just holds it to her neck and tells the guard to stand down, and then sort of with her in hand, like goes through one of the portals in order to assume injects her, and then goes through the portal so that both of them do escape. But here's the thing, though: how quickly do these chronoton particles work? Like, it's the fact that he literally injects her and then pulls her through, and I'm just like, nothing works that fast. But it has to because
it's
Voyager science.
it's yeah. Voyager sides because they go into the hallway and the guard is like, "Drop it, drop it, drop it," and he ejects Janeway, and they just jump into
Yeah,
another temporal wall, shall we say? And it's just it's weird. The way like the Voyager sites, it's just weird. It injects bang straight into the thing, and the security guards are like, "No one goes past that bulkhead. We need to find the captain." Blah blah blah. And he's basically trying to say to her, look, I am telling the truth. We are in another time. They can't see us.
yeah.
And I think this is when they go to. They're trying to do something. Hang on.
Well,
Uh,
what they do is they kind of realize they need to bring all the
yes,
ships together because what I think what they do
it's
is
before
they
they go to
then go.
astrometrics.
Yeah. So he
Yeah,
basically goes like now this is one of my complaints, okay, about the episode is that basically he goes he basically goes like like oh talk to her and she's just like oh I will like oh why should I believe anything you say and now you've injected me I've got free reign of the ship so why should I follow you around and stuff and he's like look I know what's going to happen in the future you have no idea what you're walking into effectively here and the hilarious thing is that she kind of she gives in a little bit kind of thing and then he goes right we need to go to astrometrics because we'll be able to see the status of the ship and see if there's actually a way to do anything because the sensors are better there And then basically they go to and this is the thing. She's like, astrometrics, what's that? And you're like, it's a standard bit of most ships, like it's like the Enterprise has it on TNG. Like it's not a new concept. Like Seven didn't invent the idea of astrometrics. Like
No,
there's a whole
they
episode in TNG where like it has that love interest woman who comes in to take over the astrometrics lab and stuff
they,
like that. But the
they
way she says it isn't like, but we don't have an astrometrics. It's like she's never heard of what an astrometrics lab is, and it
the
seems
ship doesn't
weird.
have one. The ship never had one
Yeah,
until Harry
but
Kim built it.
that's it. But she doesn't say it like that. She says
Yeah,
it like she doesn't know what an astrometrics lab is, rather than like,
yeah,
oh, but we don't have one. Like, oh, I know what
yeah.
an astrometrics lab is, but we don't have one. And there's loads of little things in the episode where characters like don't know about stuff that they should know about, or where they're just kind of fine knowing about stuff that.
But
Well,
it's
also we have the next scene where we're going, I guess this doesn't happen then. It's like,
it's the thing is it's exposition for exposition's sake, where it's like, oh, when they find those two crew members on the floor, and it's like, oh, this could be the time when we were attacked by dream aliens,
no,
and
it
like,
was a telepathic picture plant.
yeah, but then he goes on about the dream aliens as well, and he's just like, it it's a bit corny the way it's said. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this was
Yeah.
the time that this happened, and this was the time that this happened, and it's just like, we get it. You are doing a clip show without clips. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you are running through the Voyager highlight reel, and it's yeah. There's little bits of that sort of drag to the episode, but when we finally get to astrometrics, and the twist is that they're not in Voyager's past anymore; they're actually in Voyager's future, and for me, this is kind of the weak point of the episode, because we do, like I said, it's a clip show without clips, and we do go into Voyager's past. Only once do we jump into the future. And for me, I kind of would have wanted to see a little bit more, a few more scenes of the future. Like we get 17 years in the future where we've got like a young adult Naomi Wildman and an Icheb, who is now just a great big
Just a bloke.
bulking hunk of slab of red shirt.
I love how they do this, where they remember the episode in TNG where like it's Wesley, where Q turns Wesley into like an adult,
and he's
you're
just
like,
beef
well,
cheap
that didn't
steak.
work that way. It's like,
Yeah.
how did he grow like a foot? It's like he's already a teenager. He's not going to get like that much taller.
But he's ripped as well. That's the thing.
He's
He's just,
literally, and you just go, is this Q making him his ideal self or what he thinks he should be? But then in this one, you're just like, yeah, that doesn't look anything like it.
But then, yeah, so
and we all know what happens to Icheb. So yeah. Waste of a character. Should have been Neelix.
punishment for being in Star Trek Renegades. But yeah, so we only get one scene where we're in the future, and it's just like, oh, and you see an adult Naomi Wildman and an Icheb, and then they quickly realise they're 17 years in the future, and the standard thing of, you two are dead, and you've been dead for 17 years, and it's just like...
Which is terrifying, because
okay.
you just go, it's not even like, hey, you die in like 10 years' time. It's like, sometime later this year, you die. And you're like, that's a horrible future.
It's a horrible future, and it's just like, do you give them foreshadowing? Do you tell them what? And like, as Janeway says in the episode, temporal prime directive, I try and stay away from whole time travel and everything like that. And this is just like the only little bit of exposition. Yeah, you two are dead, and we've been following these changes, and Voyager is split into multiple time frames, and this is what you need to do. We need to get this synced and stuff like that. And Chakotay just goes, well, the only person that might be able to help us is Seven, and Janeway's like,
well, no,
classical.
Chakotay doesn't say that. Naomi says like,
Oh,
hey, the
Naomi
only
says
person that would able to track all of this stuff and deal with this is Seven, but she's dead as well.
Everyone died.
Yeah, and you're just going, okay, it's a bit of a shit future for Voyager here. They're still traveling home, and all the main characters are dead. Harry Kim still hasn't been promoted. It's basically a shit show.
Naomi Wildman is still outranking Harry Kim. I saw a meme on Funniest Frontier where it was Harry Kim having a go at Janeway, He's like, you promoted the phase rifle before me. And she's like, let's not bring Lieutenant Commander Nicely into this. And he went, Lieutenant Commander? But yeah, so you know, and then that little bit of Egypt where they say we need to go to cargo bay, I think it's 3 to find 7 of 9, and then Icheb's just like, oh Commander, I never told Neelix where you hid that cider, and I kind of wanted to say he's dead too.
But he won't be, because that's not how karma works, apparently.
Captain Neelix.
He's now captain.
He outranks Harry Kim.
Yeah. They don't tell you that literally, like, the reason why all of the other crew members are dead is because they offed themselves, because Neelix became captain.
Harry Kim just went Akka. He was like, if I kill them all, I must be the captain.
I do quite like, though, that in this episode, at the beginning of the episode, Harry Kim is literally controlling the bridge, because everyone's like feels sorry for him and just kind of goes like, yeah, let's just call in a sickie so he becomes captain.
Let's just pull a sickie.
Well, you know, it's like the one thing I'll say about this episode is very much that it's really sparing with characters. So basically, what it does is you never see a character in 2 different times, which is weird. But it does kind of suggest that the whole ship is basically like everything on the ship is the same. So there's only one of every crew member. There's only one thing. They can't move between sections and stuff. So basically it means that like B'Elanna is only in one place, so we don't see her. We have Tom Paris, who we see very late on in the episode, who is there even though he's relevant to loads of stuff earlier. And then Janeway's like, yeah, it's very strange how he uses characters. And you know, like, you get characters who just appear for tiny little sections.
But we see 7 of 9 as 7 of 9, tertiary adjunctive Unimatrix 01.
Because the time period in the cargo bay where she is
season 4,
just after she's come on board. And basically they've got all the Borg drones and stuff wandering around. She's in full Borg regalia, like you see across the bottom. Yeah. And it's a really interesting thing to be like, hey, this is our, like, you know, our send-off of going, hey, you get to see 7 of 9 as she started, you know?
But, you know, 7 of 9 also confirms that the Borg have been tracking the temporal anomalies, and they have a plan to bring the Voyager back into temporal sync with Chakotay's time period. And I love the fact that it's 7 of 9 being typical Borg 7 of 9, where she's like, you know, you could go and do this. However, if you were all assimilated, we could do it 10 times as faster. And it's just like, stop trying to upsell the Borg.
I do quite like, though, the fact of, like, it's this is the wonderful thing about 7 of 9 and kind of the Borg and Voyager, because the Voyager did defang the Borg, effectively. Like, they did kind of go, hey, the Borg aren't as frightening anymore. But it kind of went like, hey, look, they're based upon logic and like getting stuff done. They're a very pragmatic race. And so what we have here is we have 7 of 9, and she, as far as she knows, she is still like in parley, or like sort of, you know, like
she's still in parley. Like, it's a temporary alliance with the Borg.
Yeah, she's still in alliance with Janeway and the ship at this point. And she's just kind of like, okay, cool, I will fix this problem because I'm here to fix problems, and we will find the most efficient way of doing it, kind of thing, regardless of our various motives, which is really cool. But it's the fact that she is just kind of like, hey, what you need to do, you need to go round the whole ship, inject all of the different parts, all of the
the bineural gel packs,
gel packs all around the ship with the temporal thing, and that'll basically bring everything back into sync.
Voyager science.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, well, you could do it a lot faster if you were sort of, if I made a small collective of just the 2 of you, so that your thoughts are constantly in sync and that you can actually do the work quicker. And Janeway's like, no, I think I'm fine. But it's just weird seeing a sort of, you know, from TNG, where the first thing they do is they'd step in, assimilate everyone, and then ask questions that go, do we really want you? Doesn't matter. Fuck it. You know, we neutralized you as quickly as possible.
We then get a nice little shot when Janeway and Chakotay are doing the bineural gel packs. We get a shot of the macrovirus from early Voyager, and also featured in Lower Decks. And then they run into, they go into the holodeck. to try and find the access panel to do the neural packs
the
in the
next one.
holodecks. And who do we find? It's all black and white. Speaking of black and white, I think I'm kind of jealous of your.
Are you going to go black and white?
Yeah. So everything is suddenly grayscaled, and then Chakotay's like, "Oh, this is one of Tom Paris's hollow novels, Captain Proton." And then who emerges when they're trying to do it? Lonzak with Satan's robots.
We had to Google.
Seize them.
Actually started. I just love Lonzak. It is the epitome of an actor going, "I have the tiniest part on the tiniest part of this show. I will fucking own this." It is literally the most scenery chewed in one 4-minute segment I've ever seen.
It is possibly,
love it.
It's possibly one of the greatest 4 minutes.
Robots giving it's all in the background.
Yeah.
Being like, ah!
It's possibly one of the greatest 4 minutes in Star Trek Voyager, because we get Lonzak, we get Satan's robots, Chakotay and Janeway are captured, and then we see Dr. Chaotica! And it's just class, because obviously Chaotica, because this is after Janeway played Queen Haraknia in Tom Paris's, one of Tom Paris's novels. Haraknia! We love rolling out R's at Trekking Up North. Trekking Up North.
Racking up north.
So yeah, the capture, and I love the fact he's like, Chakotay's just like, we just have to play along, and Janeway is just like the most unfettered, unfazed person in this entire scene. She's just eye rolling for days.
She's just like, what the hell is this? Like, what the shit is going on? And I kind of love that Janeway's like this. Like later on in Voyager, like as she evolves, she gets more sort of like, okay, cool. But for this, she's just like, I mean, the undercurrent is in the episode of basically Janeway is a new captain. She's a new captain. She's just got charge of this like highly experimental new vessel, and she's going on this mission to like stop the Marquis. And she's basically finding out about all the terrible stuff that happens, and the idea of her world being shattered by going like, there you go, and by basically being like, hey, everything goes downhill from here. All of this terrible stuff happens, and you have to deal with bang, bang, bang. And so it's a lot like, the month that we've both had. It's the idea of where you just kind of, she's feeling like that kind of, wow, if it was one thing, it'd be fine. But all I'm seeing here is, oh, I die. Tom Paris is shit. Harry Kim becomes an ensign. Let's stop it there. I want to say like, we make friends with the Marquis. Oh, what? The Doctor is a suck. My Doctor dies and we get a holographic Doctor. Like, we make friends with the Borg. What? Naomi Wildman lives? All of these horrendous things that, like, people wouldn't be able to cope with normally. He is a viewer card.
Naomi Wildman lives?
What? Naomi Wildman lives? I shall get my
I should have murdered the ensign before. Yeah, or airlock.
I just, why is it? Yeah, but so she's got this kind of like this at this point. She gets kind of angry about it. She starts off angry, then she gets like sort of frustrated and sort of annoyed here, and then later on she does get to sort of like, why the fuck should we fix the future if everything goes wrong?
Yeah, like why should we bother chasing Chakotay into the Badlands? Why should I put the crew at risk? Why should I lose crew members because of this? I have the ability to prevent all this from happening. And Chakotay does, he does make a good argument. It's like, you do lose crew members, but you save civilizations, you impact positive change to cultures in the Delta Quadrant, and you also gain crew members as well who wouldn't have survived without you. Yeah. And he sort of painted it like, yes, but you have to take the bad with the, you have to take the good with the bad. And he's like, look at Seven of Nine. We wouldn't have been able to liberate Seven of Nine from the Borg, and she wouldn't have been able to regain her humanity without you. Look at Icheb, and and the people that
Look
we
at
get
the
like
Doctor,
Naomi Wilder and the Doctor.
It's this idea of like it's very much a mindfulness thing of basically going, look at where you are in the world and appreciate where you are. Like this is the thing, like I say, I'm really depressed and angry, and one of the factors is because I didn't win the mixed drag competition that I was in, and I strongly contested. But it's the idea of I'm still bitter, but but it's the idea of like it's the idea of you still look back and go like, hey, I didn't win that competition kind of thing. So, but do I go back and try again or whatever? But then you just kind of go like, well, actually, look at all I achieved. Like the fact that we now have Nerdy Up North quizzes. We now have a Nerdy Up North live event because we've realized that there's a demand for it.
You went to Las
raised a
Vegas.
lot of money for charity. We went to Las Vegas. We did all of these things that we did. Like, sorry, not we, I did specifically, like kind of thing, wouldn't have happened had I not have entered this competition or whatever. And, while I don't have a title that I can do anything with, it's the idea of I have this knowledge and this experience and this debt that, will follow me into the future. But
so much debt.
so much debt. Oh, good. But I like though that they frame it like that, where they're kind of like going, hey, yeah, if you go back to your time and you don't do any of the stuff that you're meant to be doing, you won't go to the Delta Quadrant, but it means that like Chakotay will remain Marquis, might just get killed in a raid, he might just get captured by the Cardassians or something, so his life might end there. Seven of Nine will never get rescued, she'll never get her humanity back, she'll never be able to bring up Naomi Wildman, but obviously it can't all be good. Icheb will never be saved. All of these characters, like Neelix, will just stay in a horrendous relationship with a 2-year-old. Like, they don't even manage to save Kez effectively. Like, if they don't go to the Delta Quadrant. But, But yeah, anyway. But the chaotic scene. Also, random thought, tangent here. Why is it called Satan's robot? If Dr. Chaotica made the robot, why would he be like, it's Chaotica's robot?
Because he's
but like he's just like, I made this robot for Satan.
It's I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry, I'm gonna have to find it. Talk amongst yourselves, everybody.
No, I wasn't talking. There isn't any. How's everyone doing in the chat? I know we're not live, but let's pretend we are, okay? Hi, Beth. How you doing? Lee, you've got a massive dick. That's great. Love to see that someday. Adam, call me. Chris, obviously, well done with top bumps.
They are right. So, you're going to love this.
Oh, God.
You're going to love it. I love being a cinephile. So obviously I told you that these robots were in the Undersea Kingdom, right? So this was the first. So it was the 1936 serialization, the Undersea Kingdom. So they are literally 88 years old, this film. They were called Volkite robots from the Undersea Kingdom. Now, these were because obviously in good old who produced this? Let me just have a look. I know we're going down a rabbit hole. Don't care. My show. I can do what I want. Republic Pictures. So there were classed as Republic robots. Now Republic Pictures were reusers of props when they made B movies, as most sci-fi and everything did. This robot was reused in the mysterious Dr. Satan from 1940.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So it was called Dr. Satan's Robot. So, as a nod to that movie, they called it Satan's Robot in Captain Proton. But again, the average Star Trek fan wouldn't know that, right? The level of references that they do in Star Trek runs so deep that they called it Satan's Robot because of one. like niche film from 1940 that I bet like 2 people have seen. And I love that. And it's
To be
you know,
fair though, I will say it is actually a fairly famous B movie film because obviously like Rob Zombie has Dr. Satan in House of a Thousand Corpses,
right.
which is also a reference to this, to that movie and whatnot. It's like,
But it's a reused robot from the
yeah.
Undersea
Okay,
Kingdom.
that makes sense. I never connected it to that. I didn't know
Well,
there was
now
robots
you
in
do.
that
A
film.
nice
So,
little Trek fact that Satan's robot is because it was in the mysterious Dr. Satan in 1940. Continue.
But going back to Dr. Chaotica, yeah, basically they capture both of them, and then Dr. Chaotica comes out and recognizes that Janeway is in fact Arachnia, my bride. Yeah, and basically just goes like, "Oh no,
I'm gonna start.
Arachnia, you're here now. I can kill you myself."
I'm gonna start calling my partner Arachnia now. Ha, Arachnia.
I do love though.
She deals with the spiders. I don't.
Yeah, she's the queen of the spider people, which is utter nonsense. And then it's like it's just one of those things where she is Queen Arachnia from the planet Arachnia, and you're like, nothing works like that. There is no Queen Earth on the planet. It's like it's so B movie.
Dolly Parton.
She's not called Dolly Earth though.
She's Queen of the Earth.
She is, but she's not called like Queen Earth. That's what like sort of Queen Arachnia means. Queen Arachnia of the planet Arachnia, and you're like, that's a coincidence, isn't it? It's almost like they knew she was going to be the queen.
Chakotay suggests that they just play along in order to get what they want and basically tell Janeway that she, pretend to be Arachnia to convince Dr. Chaotica to allow her to get access to the panel so they can sort out the neural packs, and they play along with the whole show. And I love it because Chaotica just chews the scene, as well as Lonzak did, but Chaotica just comes in and just absolutely wolfs every polystyrene rock that is in that area because it's brilliant. I love Chaotica, and
we
for
don't
only
give this
4
guy
minutes,
enough credit.
No,
we don't give like these actors enough credit.
I actually have a Proton.
They are.
I have a Captain Proton ship down there. I forgot to put it on display behind me. Yeah. It's just it's the good bits of Captain Proton because you don't actually have Captain Proton.
But this is the thing, it's this idea of going, this is the annoying thing for me, where I'm just like, I love Dr. Chaotica, and I love that whole thing. But as we know, I'm not a fan of Tom Paris. And I have to have a Tom Paris episode in order to get Dr. Chaotica and Lonzak and stuff.
But this is
the
prime,
perfect thing. That's why we're dressed up here. It's also, what is it? What was I going to say? I've forgotten. Anyway.
So they escape the holodeck.
What they do is they convince Chaotica that they convince Chaotica that basically like the ship is being their realm is being attacked by aliens from the 9th dimension.
Yeah.
Is it the 9th dimension?
The 8th dimension. 8th dimension.
And then it's hilarious because like what is it? Chaotica just laughs and goes, 8th? Everyone knows there are only 5 dimensions. And it's that thing of going, it's basically just like going, hang on.
That's what they want you to believe.
It's only adding another one over what we have already.
That's what they want you to believe, Chaotica. Yeah. And I love that it's just like that little tiny bit of convincing. Let me just have a look.
What they do is they go, hey, look behind that rock and you'll find a panel. And they basically, Lonzak goes to the rock, moves it, and then we basically have a panel which is in full color. So everything else is monochrome, but this panel is actually full color. And Chaotica's like, it must be true. And then Janeway tricks him into injecting the gel pack in the panel to basically sort of, sort out that mission. And then she basically goes, if you set me free, I'll cure the rest of the realm. And so he does. And that's Chaotica's bit over, basically. We don't go back to them.
And Janeway's just like, I love it. Janeway's like, if we survive through this, allow me to revoke Tom Paris's holodeck privileges. They're like, wow.
I'll put him back in jail for this.
Back to the transport room.
I like though. The note I have for this whole section is I've got halt in the name of Chaotica, but I've also got in capital letters that robot is so shit because it is. It's literally it's like a dustbin doing the around the world dance.
So yeah, they encounter Balana Taurus and the Marquis. I won't say the T word, but Marquis in the transporter room.
Yeah.
Balana absolutely kicks off because obviously Chakotay is in a Starfleet uniform.
Mm.
Quickly convinces her, I have to say, uh, that there
It's
is
a
temporal
strange
shenanigans
one.
going on.
It's a lot. Some people are more easily, like convinced. But I guess in this case, Chakotay's like, "Hey, look, I'm your captain. Listen to me." And the loyalty is so strong there that she's just
Yeah,
like, "Okay, then." And also the plot. But the only thing I've noted about this one is that the hot marquee guy is back, and we haven't seen him since season one. He is one of the hottest guys in all of Trek, and I'm just like, and he
hang
just
on a minute.
vanishes, and then he
Hang on.
goes back into it. Well,
Allow me to
was he?
adjust my temporal filters.
Oh yeah, you go back. But yeah,
Nyaha!
I'm just annoyed that like they get this guy appears and he doesn't say anything. He just kind of looms in the background, but it's fine. I can deal with a loom.
Hot marquee.
Uh,
But then they get to the mess hall, and the mess hall is actually in temporal sync with Chakotay. And
yeah.
we see that the mess hall has turned into a triage where there is a load of crew members stricken down with radiation burns and poisoning, and we do see the tragic passing of Tuvok in this scene.
Which is terrifying. So it's just slightly further into the future, like
Yeah,
than when they started. But yeah, and it's one of those bizarre things. Obviously, because the Doctor in this version of the ship is not able to leave sick bay, they seemingly can't teleport there anymore. I don't know why they could
I
do it in the
know.
first place,
Yeah,
but anyway,
very
it's a bit
strange.
weird. But it means that Tom Paris is here. Being because he's the second medical officer now that Kez has buggered off, it basically means that it's up to Tom Paris to basically go, you know, like,
Yeah,
Tom Paris is the one going around healing people, but being like, hey, I'm not really that good if it's not a 1930s car. But like, that needs fixing. Sadly, it's a Vulcan, so he's dead. Yeah. Can you imagine
Neelix.
though, like being in that dying that close to Neelix? I'd just be like, oh, could it be worse? But
It's the fact though. What I don't get about this scene is obviously Neelix and Tuvok have some sort of dysfunctional relationship with each other.
hmm. It's like a
Tuvok
poor man's Odo and Quark.
Tuvok passes away, and Neelix is just like, "Oh, Captain, I've got your coffee,"
Yeah.
and it's like, Mr. Vulcan has just died.
Yeah. I think the writers are just like, where the fuck do we put Neelix? Okay, he's in this scene. Fuck it. Get him to ad lib something on the day.
Yeah, it's
It very much feels like, they're like, hey, we don't know what to do with Neelix, so we'll just, give him a line on the day of giving him some coffee. But no, and it's the idea though. It's Janeway kind of, like we're saying, she gets to see one of her best friends in the whole galaxy die in front of
yeah.
her eyes and go, wow, this is what's going to happen in the future. I don't want to be part of this kind of future, you
And then
know?
we get the conversation that we discussed earlier, where
Yeah,
it's like, hey, I could prevent all this by just not going into the Badlands and not chasing after you.
yeah,
And then Chakotay does use the rational reasoning of, you have to take the good with the bad, as we've just mentioned there, and you gain crew members as well as lose them. And, you have to think of the people that you save in the Delta Quadrant as well. And,
yeah.
at the end of the day, the old Star Trek adage, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Mm,
And then what they have to do, they have to uh, essentially sort out the neural gel packs in engineering, which
mm.
obviously means they need to confront Seska.
Seska.
Now, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention, and sue me if I wasn't, because last week was just. But obviously, they have a ploy to get around the whole Seska issue. So Chakotay captures him, volunteers to be captured, shall we say, and tries to convince Seska, we need to do this to restore the ship and stuff like that. But Seska is sort of like, yes, you say you're from the future and you're in a Starfleet uniform, which means that my ploy to take over the ship doesn't exactly work, so I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of sat there going, you go, girl. You've actually saw through this.
But I think this is the frustration with Voyager compared to other stuff. Like obviously my favorite DS9 does have the biggest like what's it, is it a Deus Ex Machina? Oh, I don't know. You know, where basically like sort of they go, hey, how do we get rid of this huge invading fleet that's going to arrive? Oh, the gods just kill it. And you're like, what?
Yeah,
You know, but there are consequences to that sort of like, you know, that screen wipe, as it were. That
yeah,
you know, but it's the fact that Voyager very much kind of goes, hey, we're going to defeat these people because they're randomly going to be have a weakness in this episode that they never have again. You know, where he just goes, hey, we've defeated species 8472. How? They just somehow, you know, oh, we defeat the book, somehow. And it's very weird that it's basically the plot armor is strong in Voyager, whereas it doesn't
yeah,
tend to feel that way in other series. And it's very much the idea of going, Seska is incredibly, incredibly dangerous as a villain, and yet she never seems to get anywhere. And you just kind of go like, and it's purely because everyone else has plot armor.
I want
You
to
know,
ask
it's
you. I do want to ask you though. Right? Do they say that they have a plan? And when did they have time to go through all the other time periods and inoculate every single character that they've encountered to ask them for help?
yeah, that's it. I don't know when that happened, but I think what they do is they do that before this moment. So I think it's hinted at, okay, that basically before it's hinted at that basically before they go to engineering, because they know it's going to be tough, because they know they're going to be facing Seska and she's not going to be as compliant as everyone else.
Yeah,
That's when they go through, get more inoculations, and then go through and inoculate the other characters. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that makes sense, okay? Because they would literally it'd be like, you know, you're saving before you go into the boss room, basically. It's you know, that's effectively what they're doing.
I do love it though because we obviously Seska captures Janeway and Chakotay, but they are then a fist fight, like not a fist fight, but a fight breaks out because Harry Kim and Tom Paris ambush them. We see Belana Torres and the handsome Marquis come in, and then suddenly, does she take Janeway hostage?
Yeah, no, what she does is she takes Janeway hostage, and because the whole thing of Seska's plan is she basically sounds like she's complying, and she's like, okay, cool. I suppose it makes sense to put the ship all back together, kind
Yeah,
of thing, and then we can
yeah,
do things. But then she's like, as you said, she's like, hey, because you're from the future and you're wearing a Starfleet uniform, I'm assuming that my plan fails. I don't really like that, so I'm going to reprogram everything so that actually, when we inoculate the whole ship, it all gets synced up with my timeline and that I can
yeah,
actually better continue my plan of taking over Voyager and stuff. And you know, so she does that, and then basically, like you say, a fight breaks out, and then she basically has a gun pointed at Janeway's like neck, and then immediately the doors open and Borg 7 of 9 walks in. Seska immediately takes the gun off Janeway and shoots her, but obviously Borg force fields, so it like basically bounces off, and then yeah, and then just literally assimilates Seska, you know, just injects her, you know,
I
and
think this is
yeah, and
a
basically yeah, and it's the most badass thing ever. Actually, I think
it
this
is
is the most badass 7 of 9 moment where she literally just walks in a straight line up to Seska and just beats her up. You know.
it's a very good scene because we see that this is a fractured crew
Mm.
from different times, and Chakotay and Janeway has been able to unite these people from different times with different motives and different obviously opinions of each other
Mm.
to do the right thing. You've got Angry Balana, Angry Marquis Balana, you've got
Yeah.
Borg 7 of 9, you've got Ensign Kim. And you just see them all united because this is the right thing to do.
Mm.
And the leadership of Chakotay and Janeway comes through in the end.
Mm.
And they are able to overpower the Kazons. They then do they essentially
I love
use
that
the
all of the
deflector.
Kazons, as usual, just sort of stand around doing nothing. You know, they are useless. The Kazons
Those
here.
unemployed bums. They essentially what they try to do to bring the ship back into temporal sync with Chakotay, they use the deflector dish as sort of like a lightning rod for the nebula
Mm.
that sort of caused all this temporal flux. Um, and they do some Voyager science, as we like to call it. Use the deflector dish as a lightning rod. It burns out the dish itself, and we see that the entire ship is brought back into temporal sync with Chakotay. And as usual, when it comes to Voyager science and time travel, none of the crew have got a memory of what happened but Chakotay. And I'm sort of like, how does this happen?
Yeah, it's very Voyager science of just going, hang on, does that not what happened to the past? So they're all just dead. So effectively, what you've done is you've just killed every single character that we met in the show, so that Janeway that existed that now knows about the future doesn't actually exist anymore, because obviously the character of Janeway doesn't know anything about this,
Or
like
does
and it,
she? Because
yeah, maybe.
because when they go like the final scenes when they're at dinner and Janeway's still trying to fix the bloody replicator after 7 years, and she goes on about the Temporal Prime Directive. She goes, well, why don't you go back down to Cargo Bay 2 and get another bottle of that cider? And he's like, how did you know? And he's like, Temporal Prime Directive. So I'm thinking that she knows, but again, it's very Voyager science with how, do they remember, do they not remember, or anything like that. But overall, though, like we said about Shattered, it is a clip show without clips, and I do love it.
I don't know. You keep saying it, and I don't agree. It's not a clip show.
I think it's a lap of honor.
I think a clip show is a really, really specific format, which is literally where you have one scene that it keeps going back to that then references the clips. So you basically have a family sitting in a room talking about, hey, remember the good times? Like this one, and then it goes into a clip. Whereas this one's constantly moving and it doesn't stay in any particular time.
Yeah.
So I would defy that it's a clip show. But you're right, it is a lap of honor. It's literally going, look at all the cool stuff we got. But I would have put this like episode 20, just before the final run of the show.
So you would have had
gone, hey, remember all this shit, because that's what it works as. But
you would have had so you would have had I would argue you would have this, right? So you would have Endgame Part 1 and 2 as the last 2 episodes. You would then have Neelix leaving, and then before Neelix leaving, you should have Shattered, because it's like, hey, look at what happened over the last 7 years. Here's our lap of honor. Next episode, Neelix leaves, everyone celebrates, breaks out the champagne, and then Endgame. And then that's how you would end it, because you've recapped everything that's happened over the 7 years. Main character moves on, has a departure that is not with the crew, but it's right for them, and then the rest of the outcome of Voyager occurs in the last 2 episodes, which I really hope we do get when we get Voyager put back in, because it's an absolute belter of a 2-parter, this one. Overall, though, really, really like the episode. I know when I promoted this on X/Twitter/ Elon Musk's dumping ground, Ellie Littlechild from Trek Culture was over the moon. This is one of her favourite episodes. Hard to argue with it, because it is, if not just for Chaotica.
I think the thing is, I would say this is an excellent episode, because it's like they know what's good about Voyager, where they're like, hey, the choices they had is they could either have it as Chakotay or Harry Kim as the protagonist in this one. Like one of these characters where there's not much to them in the scheme of things, so they can be like the everyman, but it makes more sense that it's Chakotay because of the relationship with Janeway. So it works really, really well. And the characters that don't work so well aren't really in it. Like Neelix kind of isn't really there. Harry Kim's not really there. Tom Paris is like just literally just in one scene doing stuff, and then it basically brings out all the fun stuff, like going, hey, look, it's a macrovirus. Wasn't that a bit crap? Hey, look, it's Chaotica and whatnot, and hey, look, it's 7 of 9 when she was like a Borg, when she was a different character effectively. And and then here's one of our favorite villains, Seska, who effectively should have been in longer. I kind of feel like that Voyager DS9 had the best villains. Voyager, because it used them well, Voyager had great villains and then just didn't use them well. Like the Hirogen just stop. They just vanish after a while.
The Krenim.
Yeah, Credit.
with Kurtwood
What
Smith.
happens to them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the credit with Kurtwood Smith, that was an excellent two-parter, one and done villain.
Yeah.
Because he was a villain. Again, I've said this many times on Trekking Up North, and I've said it on the main Nerdy Up North podcast. What makes a good villain is someone that is utterly convinced that what they are doing is right and is good. And Kurtwood Smith plays, I can never remember the name, and please forgive me if you know the name, Jeff. If you know the name, please put it in the comment below or in the chat. When he plays that in the two-part, The Year of Hell, it is so brilliantly done because yes, he's a villain per se, but he is also he's a tortured protagonist because he made one mistake and he has spent multiple lifetimes putting it right, and then he gets with some villains in Star Trek, he gets an actual outcome, an actual closure, and it's a very unique one where it's just like everything never happened. And we see in DS9, we have some truly, I absolutely agree. DS9 has the best villains, but their outcomes are also amazing. And when it comes to Voyager,
it's because of how he uses them. Like you say, Krenin is great in his two-parter, but we can't say the same for what are they? Oh, what are they called? The people with the plague. The
the Vidians.
Vidians, yeah, it is.
Vidians, yes.
Yeah. And they're so underused. They're such an amazing villain, and they could be absolutely terrifying. And then they just go, they got cured.
It was a case of I think a lot of it was the writers were trying to replicate the success that they had in the Next Generation and DS9 when it came to villains, and they were just constantly trying to see what stuck. And they tried and they tried, and then they just went, screw it, Borg.
Yeah, and that's it. They kind of went, let's go back to... And it's a bit of a shame, because they had to change the Borg to make them work in the context of Voyager. And it kind of, I mean, it just... That's how I feel about Voyager. Voyager is missing potential, where you're just going, we could have had more of Species 8472. That would have been amazing. We could have had more of Seska being quite a good antagonist, but she's only in about, like, once she becomes a villain, she's in like 5 episodes or something.
Yeah, not a lot.
More of Kez. Like, Kez would have been an amazing villain. Like, if it was built up, like, longer. Like, one of the best villains in the show is the episode where Kez becomes possessed and becomes, like, evil. And you're like, that is phenomenal. And it's just all of those things where you're just sitting there being like, oh, really? But it's wonderful that this episode goes over and celebrates what is great about Voyager and all of the random little nods and successes. And it's just very strange that, like, we get another one of these effectively, like another greatest hits with Lower Decks. Because obviously in Lower Decks, we get the amazing Voyager episode at the beginning of the last season. Yeah, where we literally just go, hey, here's all of the Voyager references anyone could ever handle, and we get like we get the salamanders, we get Dr. Chaotica back, we get the landlord, we get the clown. It's wonderful. The clown. Why wasn't a clown used more? So I kind of feel like the Lower Decks episode went, look, there's so much stuff that was underused that we need to bring back.
I do have a little bit of news for Lower Decks, but I will keep that towards the end of the show.
Ooh,
any further notes regarding this episode?
I think it's I think it's a sort of thing. Usually what I do, obviously, here is I try and talk about the morals of an episode or the inner depth of an episode. But this one is fairly straightforward. It's literally just like a greatest hits kind of good, nostalgia episode of the show, but also to wind things up and say, hey, we're going to be finishing the show, so we're going to get into more complicated stuff, so we're probably not going to be going back to these separate plot lines or referencing these again. But it's also the idea of, like we were saying with Janeway, it's about wherever you are right now is where you're meant to be, and that I don't believe in fate or anything like that, but it's the idea of there's no point looking back. You can't change anything. There's no point looking back, and there's no point looking too far forward because anything could change in a second. So it's that idea of mindfulness of like looking around you and being like, hey, what can I do in this moment? What can I fix in this moment? And what can I do to make my life better in this moment? Whether it's going around injecting gel packs, uh, surviving Neelix's cooking, or letting Tom Paris let Tuvok die. All important stuff. But and I think that's it. It's like there's nothing like the present, I think, is the indication of this, and that we shouldn't be like, what I need to learn at the moment is because I'm feeling so bitter and resentful at a lot of stuff, which isn't me. That's not my emotion, and I'm finding it difficult getting out of bed and sort of like doing the stuff I've got to do because I've been so disheartened. But it's this episode kind of helps to remind me that you've got to keep going forward because things will get better, and yeah, it's not always going to be in temporal flux, basically.
There is always light at the end of the tunnel, and no matter what your situation is, no matter how you feel in that moment, never give up hope. And that's what me and Synoiz have sort of done over the last couple of weeks. Knuckle down. If you are not happy about a situation, change it. Do what you can. You can just sit around and mourn, or you can do something about it. And I think Voyager is.
I think it's also the idea of what I said in my video for If You Care Share Foundation is the fact of never suffer in silence. It's the fact of if you are unhappy, say you're unhappy. Like you need to up and face that and go, hey, actually, I'm having a shit time. And the trick is, the tightrope is not making it your entire personality. Because when I was younger and I was massively depressive, it was literally the only thing I ever talk about. Like, and it's awful when you're in that moment where your life's falling apart. Every conversation is that, and it is for me. Like the amount of times when poor Andy has had to put up with me being like, "I should have fucking won." He's literally like, "That's nice, yes, fine." But it's that idea of you get out your system and then you move on and then you find the next opportunities. But it's the idea of don't make it your personality, but also speak about it. Like, tell people how you're feeling because they might not know. It might not be obvious that you're going through a shit time, and people can't be expected to know because everyone's facing their own troubles. So it's the first step to getting help is to admit that there's a problem, and and it's a good way to work out who your friends are by who will be there. So obviously, always reach out.
I am a bugger for bottling it up. Because I don't want to
really
burn anyone.
That fucking woman on the plane, Goodwill. I'm actually angry at you about that woman, but specifically came over and was just like, "Are you fine? Do you want to move?" And you're like, "No, I'm fine." And then afterwards, you're like, "It was hell." I was like,
"It was hell." Yeah, I'm a bugger for I'm a bugger.
Told you to move.
I bottle things up quite a lot, but I am getting there. But you need, I think, for me, I need someone to sort of like really provoke me to opening up. Luckily, I have someone that does that now with a car battery and jumper cables. But everyone needs that one person. It really isn't. Everyone needs that one person, and it's been difficult. But things will get better. But going back to this episode, I like this episode. I do agree it should have been towards the end of the run of season 7. But it's a good episode. It utilizes Chakotay well, which is very hard to do in Star Trek Voyager. And yeah, I am really, really glad that we are putting Voyager on hiatus for a little while because the Dabo Wheel of episodes has loved Voyager over the last half a year.
I triple checked it, and there is nothing wrong with it. It's when I do test spins, it just gives us other episodes, and we're like going, it's just luck of the draw. But
I am sick to death of wearing this uniform. I need something different, and that is a great segue to promote next week's episode, because next week there is no Dabo Wheel. Next week It's a movie episode! That's right, September the 27th, next Friday. We will be joined by very handsome and special guest David Jones, background actor who's been in many movies and many TV shows like Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Section 31, The Boys, Umbrella Academy, and many, many others. Thanksgiving, Trap, which I believe is a film. He will be joining us to review my favourite Star Trek movie of all time, Star Trek First Contact. This, you think Undiscovered Country went on for a long time? I'm going to break YouTube because I passionately love this movie. This is perfect Star Trek in every single way. Synoiz, have you ever seen First Contact?
Yes, this is the one. I know I've been really bad with the movies of being like, hey, I don't know if I've seen this one or I don't remember it. This is one that I very, very much remember. I'm going to say it isn't my favorite because I do think that the actual Earth bits are a bit bad and I think Deanna's a bit underused. But Deanna sadly has the Uhura treatment where it's just like,
Yeah.
hello, you're here. You have two lines. You're like, oh well, at least you got a paycheck. But he gets very drunk though, which is good.
But this
But yeah,
is...
no, like it'll be nice to remind myself about what this is like, I think.
So everyone, make sure you tune in next week. Please, 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 if you can, watch Star Trek First Contact because this is just the Star Trek movie for me. I broke the VHS copy I had of this movie because I would watch it, and there was I remember it very clearly. I watched this every single day for about 6 months straight. Because I loved everything. I loved the music. I loved the direction. It was the first film I ever saw at the cinema. I loved everything about it. It's just the perfect movie. And this was Star Trek at its very best. The 30th year of Star Trek, as you can see there, 22nd of November 1996. I love it. And we got those amazingly beautiful grey uniforms, which I now possess. And I will be wearing next week, so I'll be flaunting my new uniform. But yes, we will be joined by David Jones next week. Let's go back to two-person Mew. There we go. So we will be joined by David Jones next week. Little bit of a side promotion, as many of you will know. I am part of another YouTube channel called The Search for Trek. We currently have a Patreon going where I am uploading a video every single day called On This Stardate with Captain Goodwill. Little tiny bite-sized videos where I give you little bits of tidbits every single day of what happened on this day at certain periods throughout the years in Star Trek history. So, for example, one day was William Shatner signed a contract to be Captain Kirk in Star Trek Phase 2, or the Space Shuttle Enterprise was christened in 1976, and it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it 365 times. We are producing...
And then 365 times more.
365 times
more. Find new things next year.
Oh, I've got a list. So I am producing that. We are going to be reviewing Star Trek Generations 1 minute at a time. So each episode is 1 minute of Star Trek Generations. There is also going to be an audio podcast called Star Trek 365, where the lovely Isaac Brown, formerly of Unplanned Trek, now part of The Search for Trek, is doing an audio podcast reviewing a random Star Trek episode in under 5 minutes, which is very fun. And like I said, the main show, The Search for Trek, where the three of us, Mark Cartier, myself and Isaac Brown, are on a journey to find out what Star Trek means to each of us. And it's fun and funny, and we have recorded a whole host of episodes. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they will be released soon. And then there will also be something.
That's the issue at the moment. It's the fact of because you haven't released stuff. We're really excited for this, but we're just kind of going like,
It's
well,
getting
when are we
there.
going to get to see it?
It's
You know,
it's
like,
it's getting there. It's just a lot of Hollywood bullshit, as we like to call it. There is going to be something rather big happening on the Search for Trek channel, and we can't
oh my.
showcase. We can't really discuss it right now, but keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, Star Trek Lower Decks premieres next month, the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks, and you can find me reviewing this with the lovely science officer Synoiz next month on Trekkin Up North, as well as the Clone Star podcast. And something very special will be happening with those reviews. So they're going to be two completely different reviews, two completely different takes on each episode of Lower Decks, and make sure that you tune into both.
Totally different. Like you should have totally different opinions for each of them. Like
I'm
come
going
into
to.
our one and be like sort of like and be like, oh yeah, I thought it was great, and then go on theirs and be like, it was fucking awful.
It's going to be very special. I can't discuss it yet, but please, in the links below, there is one of the links for the Clone Star podcast. Please subscribe to them. We recently interviewed the Hageman brothers, who created Star Trek Prodigy and also did the Lego Movie, Hotel Transylvania, and everything like that. They are currently developing, shall we say, a Dungeons and Dragons. I believe Dungeons and Dragons or Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair, I believe.
Oh, okay, Dragon's Lair. That's
Dragon's Lair.
totally different franchise. But...
Totally different, yeah. I got confused. Well, they are developing a Dragon's Lair movie or series, but that's under wraps. But yes, so please subscribe to Search for Trek and Clone Star. If you liked this video, please give us a like. It really does help the algorithm. If you're not a member of Nerdy Up North, please subscribe. Click that subscribe button and caress the bell. Everything that Nerdy Up North does is in the description below. So please find us on every single social media platform and subscribe to us and follow us and like us. You can find me on X at Captain Goodwill. Science Officer Synoiz is on X at Synoiz. He's got more followers than me and does nothing. I hate him.
Awful. Some bastard made me log into TikTok the other day, and I was like, "Why have I done this?" You know. But yeah, I should use my various X accounts for more, because I've got a Synoiz one, and I've got a Velvet Snatch one, and I'm pretty sure I've got. What is it? It's something from ages ago, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. Yeah, that's the thing. But I will use them at some point. But you can follow me by going to @thevelvetsnatch. Follow me on Instagram. There's lots of cool stuff coming up soon. Like we said, we got the Nerdy Up North quiz next Saturday, the 28th. What else do we have? We also have, bizarrely, it's bizarre that you talk about it. The Synoiz album, Frontiers. Not Frontiers, it's the first album, Ambience. I got reminded that. Do you have Ambience there?
Let me have a look.
It's the red one.
I'm just gonna go into Donna's box. Bear with us.
Hold on.
Oh, Donna, you've got Fent Fresh.
There we go. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing, because what we have is the Ambience album here, which I totally forgot because I've been so busy doing stuff. This is 15 years old now. This is the first album I ever released, and it's 15 years old this October. So what I'm doing is I'm going to release a new version of it. So basically all of the bonus stuff. So we're going to release a special edition digitally, and it'll be on Spotify and everything, and it'll basically be the whole album, and then basically, like, it's not going to be physical, but basically effectively a second disc effectively of all of the B-sides, all of the remixes, all of the fun little extras and stuff just slapped on there in one place. So that should be a cool little thing to do after a while. There's the Forbidden. It sold terribly. You know this thing where you literally you spend so long promoting an album and then you're just sick to death of it by the end. So 15 years is enough time for me, I think.
Look at the prizes. Look at the prizes you can win at this amazing quiz that's going to happen.
Come to the Nerdy Up North quiz on the 28th.
I've also got Robotech.
Yeah. The Master.
The master.
Weird. It's me. But if I had more hair, if I had more hair, that would be
I've
me.
also got.
Don't know who that is.
I live in the shadows. Forgot them. I must go to the back cave. Get my pet supplies. Forgot them.
My bat supplies. Yeah, so come along to that. That's gonna be a fun little thing. There will be more information coming out on Synoiz.com. Which
We also appear to have a distilled. Oh, we have something this is Lee distilled into a candle, caramel pumpkin.
Oh yes, that's
yeah. So that's Lee distilled into a waxy candle.
No. But no, so come along to the quiz and you can do all these things, and obviously follow me and all the stuff at Velvet Snatch. We have some very wonderful episodes of the Girl podcast coming out. So GURL podcast on Spotify and stuff. Yeah, there we go. There's my little promotion bit. We should wrap up the episode now. What's
stuffing
with
Donna's
the
box.
skydive, by the way? What's happening with the skydive? Has it happened? Have we missed it?
Please. She's been very quiet, so I'm thinking she went splat. But yes, please sponsor Nina below to jump out of a plane, and please sponsor her so she can afford a parachute so she can live. Because we love Nina. Nina is a terrifying human being, but also one of the most loveliest people I have ever not met. If we do meet, she's going to get all the hugs and she's going to make me burgers. So yes, please, if you can spare any money, donate to that. Other than that, though, I have got nothing else to add. We've all done the little promotions. So, my lovelies, until next week, I want you all to stay safe, look after each other, especially at the moment, look after each other, live long and prosper. And is everyone trekking up north? Miles?
The death ray! I shall come for you, Nova! You shall be destroyed by Chaotica!